Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I have my April recap. So instead of the usual weekly reading wrap up that I do on Sunday morning, I thought that I would replace that this week with my April recap because nothing really new to report otherwise on the reading front, and it is a good time to wrap up everything that I read in April. And also I have a book haul to show you, fun stuff like that. So first of all, in the month of April, I mostly focused on Alcott April. I had so much fun co-hosting that readathon, which was organized by Tiffany at Beautiful Minutia, and also co-hosted by Kelly at Kelly Reads a Lot, and Dia at A Novel Idea, and Emma at A Bookish Princess. And just thank you so much to all of you who joined in with us in reading the group read and reading some of the prompts and joining in our discussion. We had a great time. So that's a lot of what I focused on in the month of April. I didn't do a great deal of reading other than that. Let's just talk about what I read briefly this month. I've already spoken at length about a lot of the things individually, so I just kind of want to look at it from the angle of my goals for the month and my goals for my broader goals for the year, or my reading life in general, and how I did in meeting those goals in the month of April. And any other thoughts that come to mind that I feel like I need to share with you in the meantime. So first of all, on my tracker for the year, you can see the books here. These purplish books are the books that I read in the month of April. And I read a total of 8 books. And some of them were kind of short, actually. Really, one was an essay, one was a short story, novella length. So I didn't read a great deal page-wise, but I did enjoy almost all of what I read, with an exception, but had a good time. And, you know, I read when I could. April was busy, and May is going to be busy, and June is going to be busy. So this is kind of pretty typical for me, about 8-ish books. I added 1 book to my nonfiction reads for 2024. You can see I just put a dot here on every line. I didn't really expect that I would be able to read that many nonfiction this year. And also I'm still working on And the Dead Shall Rise by Steve Oni. But this is so far all the nonfiction that I've been able to read, and I hope to add some more to this list. My goal is kind of like 1 a month at least. We'll see how much I get there. For Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, in the month of April, as most of you know, I think, we could do either track, the Montgomery track or the Doyle track, and that was to read a novel with a red-headed main character. And I chose Anne of Windy Poplars for that. I really enjoyed that. And also for the Tea and Ink Society challenge that I do every year, the April prompt was an epistolary novel, and again, Anne of Windy Poplars. So I love it when a book does double duty like that. And the What the Dickens, a Facebook book club that I'm in, was reading Peter Pan this month, and I've read that before. Don't really feel like I need to reread it again, so I passed on that. I did not have any DNFs this month, although I did have a 1-star, which we'll talk about in a little bit briefly. And I'm doing really well on the list of books that I want to reread this year. I didn't used to reread a lot. I was not much of a rereader, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that many of the books that I read 20 some years ago, I have completely forgotten and couldn't tell you the first thing about them. So I really want to reread some of those books that I remember enjoying, but I don't remember much about them. I made a list for myself, and these are books that I would like to get to this year for rereading. And I was able to cross off, again, Anne of Windy Poplars. Crossed off a lot of boxes for me this month. And I'm working on Les Miserables, so that's that one. Next up is Anne's House of Dreams, which I will get to at some point this year. And The Scarlet Pimpernel, I have put on my May TBR, so I might get to that one as well. So I'm feeling good about the progress that I'm making on that list. I added a new page to my journal this year called All the Alcott I Want to Read. So it lists all of Alcott's, I'm gonna switch sides. It lists all of Alcott's major novels that she wrote, full-length novels, including for children and adults, plus her published collections of short stories, and then a few other of her individual short stories that she published either under her own name or under a pseudonym that sounded particularly interesting to me that I wanted to read. So it's not an exhaustive list of everything that she wrote, of everything that we know that she wrote, but it is the list of the things that particularly interest me, and it's a large chunk of her work, her body of work. So I have already previously read many of these, like Little Women, Little Men, Joe's Boys, An Old-Fashioned Girl, Eight Cousins, Rose and Bloom, Jack and Jill, A Long Fatal Love Chase. But some I also read in Alcott April, so I was able to also check those off. The Inheritance, which was our group read, and Behind a Mask, which was a short story, novella length story, and Hospital Sketches, which was a short, somewhat fictionalized account of her time as a nurse in the Civil War. So I have quite a few left on this list. A couple of the novels, full-length novels that I have left to read are Under the Lilacs. I don't remember reading that one. I may have. I tried to read all of her children's novels when I was young, but I don't remember reading that one. And then A Modern Mephistopheles and Moods, and some of her more serious, shorter works would be Work, A Story of Experience, Transcendental Wild Oats, and I feel like there was another one there, but I don't see it. And then I have some short story collections or short stories of hers that I would like to read, like Aunt Jo's Scrap Bag, Flower Fables, Spinning Wheel Stories, Lulu's Library, The Abbot's Ghost, The Brownie and the Princess, The Mysterious Key, Will's Wonder Book, Beginning Again, Our Picket Duty, and Morning Glories and Other Stories. Oh, and 3 proverb stories. So those are all books by Alcott that I want to get to eventually, but in the month of April, I knocked off quite a few of those. So let's look a little more specifically at what I did read in April. And this mostly covers Alcott April, but I also did some reading for People April and Picture This. And the main thing for Picture This that I read was a picture book version of Paul Revere's Ride, the poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, which I bought when we went to Boston and read. So that was my contribution to Picture This for that readathon. And then let's just quickly mention all of the things I read for Alcott April. First of all, Hospital Sketches, which I just mentioned, kind of a fictionalized memoir of her time as a Civil War nurse, which I found to be funny and humorous despite the subject matter, and also insightful into her perspective and the experience that she had there. I also read Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I did not enjoy at all because, well, I just didn't agree with it, basically. I basically disagreed with almost everything he wrote in there, except for a few, pull quotes. So it was short, at least. So there's that. And that fit the prompt for a work by one of Alcott's neighbors, because they were very good friends. Well, he was very good friends with her father and her family by extension. And then my prompt was to read a short story work by Alcott, and I read Behind the Mask, which was one of her Blood and Thunder Pop Wheeler stories that she wrote, definitely not intended for children, kind of a sensationalized story, but that was kind of fun. I really enjoyed reading that, and I want to read more. It came from this collection, The Hidden Louisa May Alcott, and these are all stories that she published under different pseudonyms, and I want to read more of them. They're all short and in a similar vein to Behind a Mask, so I definitely want to read more, but I just fit in the one in April. And then, of course, the group read was The Inheritance, which I enjoyed, and we talked about that at length in our group discussion, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that read. Gave it 4 stars. I gave Behind a Mask 4.5 stars. Hospital Sketches was 5 stars, so got a full 5 stars there. Self-Reliance was 1 star, and Paul Revere's Ride 4.5 stars. And then Louisa May Alcott, Her Life, Letters, and Journals was a nonfiction, so that works for People April. I really enjoyed reading that. And it also, obviously, it worked for Alcott April. One of the prompts was to read nonfiction. So that was very enjoyable. I enjoyed the actual letters and journal parts more than the editorial sections that were added to it by the woman who collected them in that edition. It was interesting, but the actual letters and journals were more of interest to me. So that was what I read for Alcott April. I am still working on reading, and this is a good place as any to mention this. I'm still working on reading The Heir of Redcliffe by Charlotte M. Young, but it's taking a lot longer to read than I expected. It moves very slowly. It's a very slow-paced story. And I messaged Miriam because I had heard her say recently that she had read it and was enjoying it, because I thought she had finished it. And I was like, okay, tell me what you loved about this book, so to encourage me to keep reading, because I've heard many good things about it, but right now I'm just kind of pushing through it and not understanding why everybody loves it. So she messaged me back, mentioning about many of the things that she loved about it, which were all very true things. She loved the family dynamics in the story, and there is a character in the story who has a disability, and it's just treated very beautifully in the story. It's just handled very well. And there's interesting sibling dynamics and relationship intrigue that's going on. And there's a lot of build up in the first half of the book. A lot of buildup based on family history and things that are going on. And it's all building up to something, but it does take a long time to build. We both agreed that it is very slow paced, but she offered to, because she hadn't finished it yet, she offered to buddy read the rest of it with me. And I was like, yes, please. I will need a little company on this journey. So she and I are going to buddy read it. I'm a little bit ahead of where she was. So she's going to catch up to where I am. So I'm taking a little break on that for a minute, and just doing some mood reading for Mood Read May currently, but definitely going to pick that up and definitely intending to finish it. And that goes for the prompt of books that inspired Louisa May Alcott, because we know for sure she read it, and it is mentioned in Little Women as a book that Joe read. So obviously it was influential to her to a certain extent. So that's what that one is for. And that's for Alcott April and People April and Picture This, all of the readathons that I participated in the month of April. And then I read A Beautiful Disguise for the Protagonist Pub's book club, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. So, I liked it, but I didn't love it. It's not something that I would be like, oh yeah, you've got to read that book. It's a great book, fantastic, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And I am looking forward to reading the next one in the series. I do want to read that one, A Noble Scheme, I believe it's called. And then I read Anne of Windy Poplars, which I very much enjoyed. Love the Anne series, love the character of Anne. I had forgotten until after I had read it and was talking to someone about it, or I can't remember now, but somebody was talking about it. And I remembered that this was actually written after the rest of the Anne series was written. This one and one other book were kind of inserted into the timeline as kind of like missing years that Lucy Maud Montgomery hadn't initially addressed in the series, but her fans wanted more Anne books, so she went back and inserted this into it. So it is a little bit in a different format, a little bit of a different style of the other books, and that is a little bit obvious. It's epistolary, so very different from the format of the other stories, and a little less linear and a little more episodic. So it's a very different experience, and it's definitely not my favorite of the books, but it was very enjoyable. It has, Anne is still the same character, and she gets into similar scrapes, and she meets a lot of interesting people, and it's the stories of how she interacts with the people in the community where she is working at a school, and Gilbert is going to college, and these are the letters that she's writing to him about her experiences there. So it was very good. And I gave that one 4 stars, if I didn't mention that. So those are the books that I actually read for April. So I also wanted to share a little bit of a haul, because I definitely hauled some books in April. At my church, we used to have a library and a bookstore, and the bookstore was there for a long time. And the library was more of a recent addition. But the situation with both of them, particularly the library, was such that nobody ever borrowed the books from it. And in the bookstore, occasionally someone would buy a book from it, but by and large, the books that were in there have been in there for a couple decades probably, and nobody's touched them. And some of them are pretty dated. So it just wasn't being utilized. And so they're still keeping a small section, like they're just reducing the bookstore, and I think it will be more like kept fresh and with current things, and more specific items will be available in that bookstore. Around here where I live, the vast majority of people are very literate and well educated, and they purchase whatever books they want to read. And there are excellent library systems here. So if they don't purchase the book, they borrow it from the library. There's just not really a need to have a resource for books for the people in our congregation, honestly. So it's kind of taking up space. All of that to say, when the bookstore was reduced, they just put all of the books that they had out on a table, and it was a free-for-all. And we could come and take whatever we wanted. So I got a whole stack of books, and it's all Christian nonfiction. So I don't know when I will get to them. I actually went through my Christian nonfiction shelves and did some unhauling so I could make room for these because some of these I definitely really want to read. I tried to pick up ones that I really want to read or that I have seen and have been interested in, but just never picked up. I'm going to go through them and show you real quick which ones I got. And you can maybe tell me which of these, if you've read them, that you would like to read, or that you think I should read, that I should pick up. So first of all, I believe that Tiffany had mentioned this one recently in her video about books about prayer that really had been impactful for her. And this is called The Hour That Changes the World, A Practical Plan for Personal Prayer by Dick Eastman. And it's basically guides you through praying for an hour at a time, which when I went to a prayer retreat a month or so ago, they always schedule an hour of prayer, and they have a little guide that you can use. And I kind of made it my goal to do that once a month between, that conference and the next one that I go to, which I didn't do in April. So I would like to do that. I need to do that in May. So anyway, this book is basically a very similar concept. In fact, I think at the conference that I went to probably was working off of this book. So it's not very long, but I think that would be a great read and to kind of help flesh out that concept. And then this one, Make Your Bed. I'm sure that you have heard of this one. This was based on a speech at a college that the Admiral William H. McRaven made. And that speech has been widely shared. And a lot of people are familiar with it, but this is a little bit expanded and nice little kind of giftish sort of volume. So I think that we gave these one year as like a gift for graduates maybe, and this was like a leftover. And then this actually had been on my wish list in thrift books because in particular, I think it was Surrender. I was considering reading last fall when we were doing the Fall into Faith readathon, Catherine and I at Read Journal Love. And I really have enjoyed Nancy Lee DeMoss's other books, most of what I've read by her. And this is a collection of 3 books that she's written about brokenness, surrender, and holiness. So it's nice to have them all in one bind up. And this one, I don't know anything about it, but the concept was intriguing to me. Teach them diligently how to use the scriptures in child training, which my husband and I have definitely very much tried to do when our children were small up through now, to use scripture as a foundation for everything that we are trying to teach our children, and the character that we want to nurture in them and help them to grow, attitudes, etc. And we try to always work from scripture. So I think this would be a great resource. I probably should have read it when they were much smaller, but I think it will be useful in the teen years as well. And then this one is by the same author, The Heart of Anger, Practical Help for the Prevention and Cure of Anger in Children, which again, it's talking about children. The girl in the picture in the front seems small, so maybe we're past the stage of this being super helpful, but you know, I think everybody struggles with this to one degree or another, so I think it could be useful regardless. And then this one, I follow the authors of this book, Hal and Melanie Young, on Facebook, and have followed them for many years. They talk a lot about raising boys. And since I have boys from a time when they were young age, I looked for all the resources I could find about that. And so this is Raising Real Men, Surviving, Teaching, and Appreciating Boys, which they have a lot of great practical advice that I have seen on their social media, and I think their book would be very helpful as well. And then this book was actually written by one of the speakers who was at the prayer retreat that I went to a month ago or so. And it's called Battle Ready Moms, Raising Battle Ready Kids, a Biblical Strategy for Confident Parenting. So when am I going to get to all these parenting books? I don't know. Hopefully before my kids are grown and out of the house. Practical Happiness, A Young Man's Guide to a Contented Life by Bob Schultz. I had read his book about work with my boys a couple summers ago, and it actually was very impactful, maybe a strong word, but I did notice an improvement in their work ethic, particularly my older son. After we went through that devotion, that we used it as a devotional in the summer, I try to do some kind of, training, spiritual growth, etc. during the summer when we are off school, and make use of that time that I have more with them. I always try to find something that, will help them grow as people and spiritually. So this is another option. I do have another book that I want to read with them that I've already shown you. I don't know where it is right now, but I talked about it in my May TBR video. So I don't know that this summer will be the summer for this, but I do want to read that one with him. I liked his other book, so this is a good option to consider. And then Boyhood and Beyond, Practical Wisdom for Becoming a Man, seems like another really helpful one. And that one, they may even be able to use as a devotional on their own. And this I was very excited about. Happiness by Randy Alcorn. I read his book about heaven last fall and loved it so much. And I didn't even know that he had this book called Happiness. I'd not heard of this title. So I definitely snagged that one, and we'll probably get to this one sooner than some of the others that I have here that might just, grow mold on my shelf. Then this, now, where did I get this one? I think I did not get this. I think that was all that I picked up at the giveaway from church. I can't remember where I got this one though. But I don't think I paid for it, or if I paid anything for it, it was like 50 cents. Anyway, a lot of people last Christmas, not a lot of people, but some people last Christmas were reading this book or talking about this, mentioning it as a great book for Advent. And I just love the beautiful cover. Like, I don't really know actually much about the contents, but the cover is gorgeous. And it looks like a fantastic book to have at Christmas time. So I picked it up. It's called Shadow and Light, A Journey into Advent by Tish Oxenreider. And those and papers, so beautiful. I want to say it's like a devotional sort of thing. It's divided by the weeks of Advent. There's week 1, expectation. Yeah, so there's like a devotional and activity for each day of the week. So that's really cool. It's really beautiful. And I also picked up Bulletproof, the cookbook. I cannot remember. It was like free or like really cheap, 50 cents or $1. I don't even remember. Might have been a library. I don't know. Anyway, I picked this one up, but I'm not sure that I'm going to hang on to this one because as I was looking through it, it just wasn't a lot of practical stuff for what we would eat, especially the rest of the people in my family. So I'm not sure that I would get much use for it, but I want to look through it a little bit more and see if there's maybe a few useful recipes in here to hang on to because I do eat kind of low carb, not always keto, but I try to stay low carbish in a healthy range of carbs. So it's useful to have recipes for that. I feel like I'm missing something because I wasn't as careful this month about stacking up in a specific area, the books that I collected through the month. But I know that those ones I had picked up in the month of April. So my little haul there. I'm going to be doing an unhaul. I want to go to bring some to little free libraries in our area. I don't know when I'll have a chance to do that. Possibly this weekend, maybe make a video and share that later this week. So we'll see. So I'll show you in a different video some of the books that I'm going to be unhauling to make room for these books on my shelf. So that was my recap for April. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments what you read this month, in the month of April, and if you participated in any of the challenges or other readathons that I mentioned or did not mention, and what your favorites were, maybe your least favorites, and if you read any of the books that I mentioned, the usual bookish chat. Tell me all the things in the comments. I love talking to you in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.